The concept of ontology helps to communicate assumptions about the nature of reality. As part of our broader conversation about philosophical perspectives, we are going to explore the concept of ontology and learn about a range of ontological perspectives. Ontology is a study of what exists, or what is real. The word ontology comes from two Greek words, onto, which means existence or being real, and logia, which means science or study. Examples of ontological questions are: what are the fundamental parts of the world? How are they related to each other? Are physical parts more real than immaterial concepts? For example, are physical objects such as shoes more real than the concept of walking? In terms of what exists, what is the relationship between shoes and walking? Is a health clinic more real than the concept of feeling well? What is the relationship between the health clinic and feeling well? Divergent schools of thought hold different beliefs about ontology. In other words, distinct schools of thought disagree about the nature of reality. The terms realism and relativism are used to describe two opposing ontological schools of thought. A realist ontology holds that one single reality exists. From this perspective, a real world exists independent of human experience. Realists therefore believe that reality can be known, that a single real reality can be studied, understood, and experienced. A relativist ontology, by contrast, holds that reality is constructed within the human mind. From this perspective, a single real reality does not exist. Relativists believe that reality is known through human experience, that there is no real reality outside of temporally and spatially situated human experience, so that human realities are inseparable from factors like history, geography, and culture. While realists agree on the existence of a single real reality, groups of realists hold different assumptions about the relationship between reality and the terms by which it can be described, understood, or known. Naive realism holds that scientific inquiry can yield accurate truths about reality, while critical realism is skeptical of the capacity for imperfect human intellect to perfectly capture, represent, or know reality. Structural realism accepts that although one true reality can be identified, the structures around how that reality is defined can change, at which point the nature of reality also changes. In other words, as scientific definitions, measurements, technologies, and norms change, so will our understanding of reality. For example, in health sciences, rapid advances in brain imaging have changed our understanding of how the human brain functions. While relativists agree upon the existence of multiple realities, groups of relativists hold different assumptions about the relationship between reality and its beholders. Broadly, relativism assumes that each individual mentally constructs his or her own reality, that reality looks different to each observer. Bounded relativism holds that different realities exist for different groups, but that realities are shared by bounded groups of people. For example, people over the age of 90 would be expected to have a shared reality and perhaps shared views relating to health and health care because of their common histories. The readings in this topic module by Moon and Blackman illustrate realism and relativism using a hypothetical example of conservationist efforts to influence logging activities in virgin forests. Moon and Blackman suggests that realists would assume that decision-making processes around logging represent universal truths that can be established through applying scientific methods. Realists would seek to identify and define the people who log and the reasons why they log. Realists would seek to predict patterns of logging behavior and attempt to identify the generalizable properties and characteristics of people and the system to infer causal relationships between people and drivers of resource management. Realists would expect that policymakers or community groups could use their data to target interventions that would have predictable outcomes based on cause and effect relationships. Relativists, by contrast, would ascribe a greater role to emotions, cultural background, social norms, and experience, and presume individuals make decisions in complex, contextually dependent, and potentially unpredictable ways. Relativists would be apt to conduct a more detailed investigation of context, exploring who logs, the nature of their relationship to the forest they log, and the economic, political, and social context that has shaped the nature of the logging activities. Where realists would focus on causal relationships, relativists would expect that logging is related to human decision-making and behavior. They would therefore seek to capture the diversity and depth of experiences and behaviors contributing to or impeding conservation efforts. Despite the apparent polarity of these ontological positions, they can complement one another. In the example of logging in virgin forests, Moon and Blackman explain that realist research, which focuses on the real biology of forests and trees, contributed to the development and implementation of forest management interventions, such as reduced impact logging. By focusing on cultural norms and human behavior, relativist research helped to explain which interventions were unsuccessful and why. This example shows that there is value in considering both realist and relativist ontological positions.